Hello, everyone. We're going to wait a couple of minutes to give everyone the opportunity to get logged in.
If you were at Summit, a lot of this was what we covered in the roadmap look back, and we're just covering the last quarter here. So the new features from the last quarter. A lot of this was covered, but there may be some new things you pick up, or maybe you just need a reminder. So thank you for joining us, because I do see some names that we did see in Austin. It was such a great time. In case you did miss Summit, highly encourage you to join us next year. We're going to be, Haley, I don't think we have a slide for that, but you want to share where we're going to be?
Yeah, we're going to be in Chicago next year. Really excited about
We are
that.
super excited.
Yeah. Lots of planning underway already.
Yeah. And if you were at Summit, you missed some really fun dad jokes in some downtime. So Haley gave me permission to tell one. And I don't even, oh man, I ruined it by even calling it a dad joke, because I really like to call it's Jesus's greatest miracle that most people haven't heard about. And it was because it was before he started his public ministry. And most people know that before Jesus started his public ministry, he was a carpenter. And so one day Jesus was hanging out with one of his really good carpenter friends who happened to be blind. And this miracle happened when his blind carpenter friend picked up his hammer and saw. So you don't hear about that one, unfortunately. Didn't get told in the Bible, but it's, his first miracle before his public ministry. So
That was a good one, Chris.
all right, thank you for humoring me, Haley. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah. All right. It looks like the attendees, that number is starting to slow down. So we'll go ahead and
So
get
either it
started.
was thank you for being patient, like you all won out by being here early, or maybe it was a punishment, I don't know, but we'll go ahead and get started.
So like Chris said, this is our quarterly new features webinar, and we can formally introduce ourselves. I'm Haley Whitworth, and I'm over marketing and training. Chris,
And I am Chris Dolan, over product and strategy.
And we are going to have time for questions at the end, but Chris and I are just gonna talk back and forth about a lot of the features that we've covered over the past quarter, or a lot of the features that have come out over the past quarter. So this is the first one. Chris, do you wanna take it from here?
I'll kick us off. Touchpoint Sites. So we talked about this quite a bit at Summit. In case you missed it, there was a workshop. We talked about it on our roadmap look back. This is live. So we talked about how we were going to be having a full featured CMS that will be integrated with Touchpoint. So this is a tool that you can use optionally to host your website. It's very similar to like a WordPress or a Squarespace. I've used both of those. I actually think our tool is even easier. Drag and drop editor, very flexible, very powerful. You don't need to know code in order to use it. If you want to extend the functionality and do, all kinds of customizations, you can get in there and manipulate the code, but you don't need to. So we talked about that quite a bit. This is actually being serviced exclusively through our partnership with Solertia. So they were a sponsor at the Touchpoint Summit. If you didn't meet them, there's a form on our website that you can fill out to learn more and get set up with a demo. They have packages from just basic kind of hosting and support all the way up to they will do migration, design, project management, all of that for you. So there's some really cool integrations, including one-page forms, the prayer request widget, the small group binder. There's a really cool small group binder that's fully integrated, really beautiful. And there's lots more that we're planning to develop on top of that this year. So if you were at Summit, you heard some of those details that we announced. So if you're not happy with your current website, or you're considering, wanting deeper integrations to save your staff time, we'd encourage you to check out Touchpoint Sites.
And Chris, I want to add one note here. Is that you did comment on, it being super easy to use. To me, it reminds me a lot of our mobile-friendly email builder. I mean, it's that simple
Yes.
for dragging and dropping the elements in there. So for those of you who are using our mobile responsive email builder, you kind of get a glimpse of what it's like to work in this website building tool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
super easy.
dozens and dozens of little modules, even more so than what we're able to include in an email tool, that you can kind of just drag these blocks and put them wherever you want. So it's drag and drop, super easy.
And the websites
Yeah,
look great. Yeah. All
yeah,
right.
we actually have a few churches that have been going live on this, so we'll have some sample sites that we can actually show off and share, maybe in a future webinar.
Yeah. All right. So add photo and emergency contact. So during check-in, you can now modify the emergency contact information and more easily upload a photo. So the emergency contact details, of course, we know are stored on the people record, and they're going to be updated there automatically just based on whatever changes we make here during check-in. So this is an optional setting, and you can turn that off. It's available by profile. And meetings by time. So whenever someone is looking for a class to either visit or join, the classes are now organized by time. So you can easily identify a class that's happening right now, for example, whenever you're at check-in. And Chris, I think this is you.
Yeah, you've probably heard a little bit about this because we actually did a webinar just on status flags and engagement score. But if you're not using status flags, we did a lot of sessions at Summit on this. There's a ton of powerful uses for it. We made it super easy to use. You can change the colors here. And if you don't like these 8 options, you can completely customize that on the back end. So really easy to limit status flags by roles. You can create as many of them as you want. And the really powerful tool here is what's coming up next. Well, there's another thing that's kind of new on the next slide, where you can actually add picture borders. So we had some really cool workshop panels at the summit where we heard some ideas for how churches are using this, and I thought I'll share some really interesting ones. And I apologize for the siren. I do live in New York City. Can you hear that, Haley? Is that loud? And traffic is stopped right in front of our apartment. So hopefully I'll just talk loud. Some creative ideas. So things like whether somebody needs a background check that might be a volunteer, you could put a red circle around. Or we had some churches or people talk about the concept of, you might have thousands of people in your database, but who are your kind of core people? What if you had a blue circle around somebody that was your core and a yellow circle around maybe somebody that wasn't in your core? Then if your staff were doing, looking at people's records and they saw somebody with a yellow that is in the core, then maybe they know that there's certain things that we need to update about those people, that it would update their status flag to show that they are in a core person. So some other examples are things like for security purposes, people that maybe shouldn't be in your building or have had issues, known issues, you could use this to discreetly show that around their photo. There's all kinds of creative uses for this new tool, and look forward to hearing about how you use it at your church. And the next piece here, this is a really great piece of all of what we did with status flags, is how it builds into engagement scores. And you can track people's engagement over time. So you can see status flags over time to know whether somebody that maybe was engaged, you can know when they drop off, or somebody that was not engaged, how they became engaged. So there's some really cool things here. If you didn't see our webinar earlier this summer on engagement scores, I encourage you to check that out. Ticketing updates. We have some great enhancements that we've made recently with ticketing. So if you've used ticketing, We'd had some kind of pre-baked reports. Now we have a really powerful tool that has some search functionality. There's lots more filtering functionality. There's pagination and all kinds of stuff in there so that you can search through those historical ticket sales and be able to find the people or the tickets that you need. There's some other features here that we blogged about this last week around links to be able to cancel tickets in email, being able to actually email tickets, links on the confirmation page to easily access those tickets. So we've done everything we can to try to make those tickets as easy as possible, including putting those in the mobile app. There's some new discount codes. There's some other new replacement codes. So if you and if you're wondering kind of what is our ticketing feature, this is for if you have a venue with assigned seats, or it could even be general admission, and you want people to buy specific tickets for that event, where it's a limited number of either seats or specific seats that they're buying, the tickets are actually assigned to that seat. And so there's a whole venue building and seat selection tool, similar to like a Ticketmaster would offer, but it's fully baked into Touchpoint.
I'm going to talk about a couple of new integrations that we're really excited about. And the first one is Intact. So one of the popular resellers of Sage Intact is Baker Tilly. They used to be known as Act 2. And so they have written an integration for Touchpoint. And a few churches are already using it, and they have mentioned to us just how much of a time saver it is for them, just saving significant amounts of time. So Baker Tilly actually wrote the tool for the integration. It's going to be available on the marketplace soon. If you want to learn more, we've provided the contact at the bottom of this slide for you to reach out to Baker Tilly directly. So you can just email Allison Webb. And next is the MinistrySafe integration. So many of you are already aware of and are using our integration with Protect My Ministry. And we now also integrate with MinistrySafe. They do background checks as well, and they also do abuse prevention training. And so if you aren't doing abuse prevention training, this is something that we highly recommend that you consider doing. But we are fully integrated with MinistrySafe. This is a great tool, and this goes hand in hand with this next slide. So largely in support of the MinistrySafe integration, the volunteer tab has had a facelift. So the information is organized in a really easily digestible format. You may see more sections just depending on the role that you have. So for example, we have training classes down here at the bottom of this screenshot. And so a user needs to have a specific role in order to see training classes. So for instance, if they have the MinistrySafe classes role, then they would see some training classes. And once a training has been added, then the person will receive an email invite. They'll be able to watch a series of training videos. They might need to take a short quiz afterwards as well. But there is a blog that we have published recently. It's called Volunteer Tab Enhancements, and it covers this whole volunteer tab. So we recommend checking that out to learn more. And then limit, edit, and hide roles. So this is a setting, or there is rather a setting that turns on this feature. And if you have it enabled, then you'll see this option underneath the administration menu. And so it allows the admin to set which person fields are required, which ones are hidden, which ones are editable whenever new people records are created.
Next is mobile app. We actually had a release that kind of was right on the edge of Q2, Q3. So we covered a lot of things, including some new in-app media types, some updates to how we do registrations, as well as, I'm blanking here, the checkout scanner for being able to do electronic checkout. But we haven't talked a lot about this request account deletion. This is a requirement that Apple put in place for all apps that you have to give users the ability to request an account deletion. And so there's a corresponding help article that you should familiarize yourself with. If somebody does request an account deletion, this will trigger a task for the new people manager. And so if you see a new task that's created for that, this is what that's referring to. And this is a requirement by Apple. We have recommendations in our help article for how you should handle those requests. Because you might not necessarily want to delete every person's account that could request this. There may be use cases where you need to merge that into an anonymous record, or anyway, we have examples of kind of what you should look for and what you should ask the person. But this is a requirement that Apple did put in place, and it is on Apple and Google now. So in both apps, and we walk you through kind of what we recommend you doing, including reaching out to that person. But just know that if you don't reach out and follow up with these people, if that gets back to Apple, it could be against their terms of service and they could suspend your app potentially. So if you get these notifications, please check out the help article for our recommendations.
All right, a couple of things here. First is the yellow bell. So you might be familiar with the red bell icon that displays at the top right corner inside of your Touchpoint database. So that's going to be there whenever there is a critical issue. So the red bell has actually recently been changed to a red caution icon. And so it's going to continue to be used to communicate critical issues to all churches. It's the same message that you would see on the Touchpoint status page. So we have now added a yellow bell icon that will allow us to target our communications with specific churches whenever just those churches are impacted by any important issue. So the yellow bell icon will only be displayed for admins and support admins. And then the translation infrastructure, we've been putting in place more infrastructure to support translations on the website tools. And we're also going to be putting in place more things to support the mobile app that I think Chris talked a lot about it at Summit. There's not anything that you're going to see quite yet, but we just wanted you to know that our teams are working on this. We're trying hard to make Touchpoint available in more languages.
Yeah, Haley, let me just pause there. We don't actually have any slides on this, but for those that weren't at Summit, we did share some things that are in the works right now that are on our roadmap look ahead for this next year. We're not planning to talk about it right now because this is kind of a look back at the last quarter, but I did want to give people a heads up that we are working on some really exciting things for the mobile app. And so we'll be talking about that probably on our December webinar. I imagine we'll probably share some updates on that, but there'll be lots more coming kind of in Q1 2023 related to that. And we are really excited about the possibilities that are coming with our mobile app. So if you're either on our mobile app, not on our mobile app, if you're considering using our mobile app or considering, what is your mobile strategy, talk to us because we have some really exciting things coming down the pipeline that not seen anybody do that I think will really drive engagement and help your congregants really connect on a deeper level. So we'll be talking about more of that this fall, but if you're interested in talking more further, do let us know.
Chris, I heard you say the possibilities that are coming with the mobile app. Did you mean the Rossabilities that are coming with the mobile app?
That's right. Little inside joke from the Summit. Yes, Rossabilities. There's lots of Rossabilities.
All right, so one-page forms, these are live now, and our team has already been using these. We've had a few registrations already that we've created using the one-page forms. This allows you to just create a very simplified registration form that allows everything on one page. So from the name at the top all the way through payment, and then you click the submit button. So I believe the blog went out last week about one-page forms that gives you more details about how it works. So be sure to check that out.
Yeah, I've been seeing some really beautiful registrations. People are using this for some really creative things. One thing I've seen is even here, this example that you're seeing is like a donation for Easter flowers, where you can say it's in memory of or in Thanksgiving, and you can put different fields in and even accept the payment right there on this page. So yeah, love seeing the creative uses for this and really simplified form. So
And the submission report. So this is a new report that we released along with the one-page forms, but it is also available for all registrations. So each question and the corresponding answers will have a separate column versus the registration report where all of the answers are in one column. And the volunteer scheduler. So the wait is nearly over. We are going to take this live next week. So we're really excited. The beta testers have been great, giving us feedback along the way, and we're at that point where we can make it live for everyone. So we will announce it when it is live for all churches.
yeah, there'll be a blog post out, and oh, go back one slide. You're spoiling the excitement here. Our apologies. We did send an email to a lot of system admins. There were some error messages that went out related to volunteer scheduler, and it had to do with the fact that we've turned on some features that just weren't on for all databases. And so there were some error messages. We did fix that issue, so you shouldn't be getting those, but that is basically what's happening behind the scenes, is we were turning on some features and it caused some error messages there. But yeah, we're really excited to get this in your hands, and there'll be great documentation and a blog post when this goes out next week. So watch out for that. And Haley already gave you a sneak peek, but this is something we shared at Summit, is Process Builder. And before we go into it, Haley, I just want to say, so we shared this, we did a big workshop and presentation on it. And this feature is now in beta with several churches. So this is one of the benefits of going to Summit, is that participants of the workshop at Summit were able to sign up for a beta release of this feature. And so we have actually released that tool to them this week. And we actually have a second round of beta users that are starting next week on the product. And it's a really great tool. We can't wait to get it in everybody's hands. There are a few enhancements we're continuing to make on it, but it's a very powerful tool. And why don't I give you some sneak peeks and kind of show you what that looks like. So first and foremost, you can create as many processes as you'd like. There will be a new section under the people menu that's available to both admin users and anybody with a special role. So you probably have seen that role on your database. I think it's available now to all databases, but it will not turn it on. There's a special flag that we have to turn on in order for this feature to turn on. But you can create the process, you can name it whatever you want, set the owner, you can limit these processes to role, and you can determine whether that process shows on a person's record on the new processes tab. And on the next page, I'll show you how easy it is to set this up. So on the process setup page, you have people and you have steps. So this is showing the steps tab, and you can create as many steps as you want. You can name them whatever you want, have different owners. You can set the ideal amount of time it would take for somebody to complete a step. And then you can have automations of when that step is automatically completed and what actions are automatically taken when that step is completed. So some examples of that you can see here on this. This is a screenshot. This is not a mock-up. So when somebody joins an involvement, it could automatically have them marked as completing that step. Or a task completed with a certain keyword, or you can have a manual step, maybe attendance taken, or a search met using the search builder. So there's lots of different powerful things. I think there's a few others in there, and we're looking at adding others based on feedback. And then actions to take are things like being able to automatically send an email or a text message, creating a task, creating a note, adding somebody to involvement or removing somebody from an involvement, or adding a role or removing a role. There's lots of others that we have thought about that we want to hear feedback from you all about what would be best to automate. But there's a really powerful, super easy to use tool. And on the next page, you'll see the example of kind of what this looks like to actually have people go through a process. So here you're seeing the people tab, and you can see, you can filter this easily by people that are currently in the process. Maybe they've abandoned the process, or people that have completed a process. Here you're seeing all people. And there's a little arrow to kind of open each person up there, which allows you to see all the different steps in the process and when somebody has completed that, each of those steps. So this same view shows on a person's record based on the role that you have. So on the next slide, you'll see on my record, you can go to the profile processes tab, and you can see all the different processes and which step I have completed or which step I'm on and the varying dates that are associated with that. So very powerful tool. We're really excited to get this in you all's hands. We've been talking about it for a very long time. We've gotten great feedback from churches that helped make this tool possible. Again, we try to make it as easy as possible to use and very powerful. We want to, this tool to make it easier, save your staff time, easier for you to track people through various ministry processes that you have. And we're really excited to see some of the ways that churches are starting to set this up and use it. So stay tuned for more. We will be talking about this throughout the fall, and we want to get this into everybody's hands as soon as possible. So I think that's all the slides on Process Builder. And so we have a few questions that have come in. If you have some questions that you want to post here, please do post them now. We will stay on for a few more minutes and answer questions. Haley, do you want to take this first one, or should I?
You can take it.
So someone is asking here, what would be like, why would you have an integration between Touchpoint and Intact? So if you're not familiar with Intact, Intact is a general ledger tool. It's a budget, it's a accounting software. And so the integration with Touchpoint is such that your donations and your event registrations, all the monies that are collected automatically can sync into your general ledger without you having to do an export and map all the funds. They built a mapping tool where you can decide what syncs and how it syncs and the frequencies for that to be able to pull that data immediately over into your general ledger. So very powerful tool that kind of helps you set everything up the way that you would want and saves your finance time. What we've heard is a considerable amount of time from your finance team to be able to manage that process of reconciliation.
So there are a couple that are about scheduler. So one is when will it be released? So that will be released next week. And then the follow-up question to that says, will the scheduler blog show us how to use it? So first thing, I do want to go ahead and show y'all, if we go to the documentation website, and then, I'm on just the contents page here. If I scroll down, we already have a lot of documentation created for you. So you just click on scheduler and you can see there are a lot of help articles that we already have available. So you can use that to help get started.
Yeah, we'll look at we'll probably be doing some webinars or there's gonna be trainings available on that. We will look to adding some kind of quick setup videos on that, but we've also made the process super intuitive and added some new features there that kind of walk you through that process. So should be easy to use, but we'll look at adding some additional things in addition to the documentation to make that as easy as possible for you. Someone is asking, when will the new app be available? The new app is going to roll out in stages. So we're in the process of moving and rebuilding and enhancing our powerful tool belt that we have in our mobile app, including things like attendance and directories and pre-check-in and things like that. And so we plan to have kind of a first version out in Q1, but it may not have all of the existing powerful tools that we have currently today. So there will be phases that we will kind of announce and share on webinars and in blog posts to say, you know, if it's something you want to move over to, here's what's available. If you want to move over today, here's what's going to be available kind of in the next phase. But our goal is to have full feature parity so that it's possible to be moving everybody over next year, within the next year. So there's just a lot there. So we've got a lot of work to do, but we've made a lot of progress and it's coming together really nicely. I've even got, it's several versions in of a beta app on my phone that I've been playing around with, you know, each day. So really excited about the way that's coming together. Someone is asking, so the CMS that Touchpoint Sites is built on is a kind of a full featured solution. Is it possible to integrate your own CMS within Touchpoint? So we have had churches integrate with WordPress and other solutions before. There are some kind of church built WordPress plugins that will that are out there and available that are supported by various partner churches of ours. It is possible to integrate with other CMS solutions. We don't support any of those currently because there's just so many different website tools out there. So we tried to find a solution that was really great, very powerful, very easy to use at a low cost that we can integrate with to provide you the powerful tools and resources that you're needing. So if you want more information about that, or this person's name isn't shown up, but they can reach out and we're happy to talk further. All right, so any other questions? I'm not seeing any others coming in, and we're kind of right over the half-hour point. We try to keep these to about a half an hour. So one's coming in here about supporting multiple websites. Yes, we can. You can talk further with Salursha about that. It's possible to support multiple websites. It's also possible, we've seen some churches that have said, we're not ready to move over our full site, but we want to take advantage of your new small group finder and maybe some of the integrations. So they've created like a micro site that is a subdomain of their church website that looks almost identical to their existing website. And they've started taking advantage of some of those integrations already. So you could kind of do a staged approach and then turn that, you could turn that into your full website at a later point if you're interested. So for the sake of time, I think we're going to wrap up here. If there's any other questions that come in, we will try to answer those offline. But thank you so much for joining us. And you know, always great to be in person. I'm virtually in person with you all. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.